Hello and welcome to SORASTRO's Painting. In this video I'll be sharing my experience of using my very first 3D printer, the Ultracraft Reflex RS Turbo, which was kindly sent to me for review by Hey Gears. I've been offered various 3D printers to review over the years, but I've always felt daunted by the prospect. So I chose to wait until I felt technology had reached a point that would allow someone who's completely new to the hobby to produce high quality prints with as little technical know-how or time investment as possible. And after looking into the Reflex RS Turbo, I thought this could be the 3D printing solution for me, so decided to take the plunge. Obviously I don't have anything to compare this product to, except my own hopes and expectations. What I can offer are my entirely honest reflections on what this printer is like to use from the perspective of someone who knows next to nothing about 3D printing. So in this video I'm going to be walking through the experience of setting the printer up, preparing the STL files to print using Hey Gears Blueprint software, before going through the print, wash and cure process. I'll then share some final thoughts on both the quality of the prints produced as well as the system as a whole. My hope is that by providing a detailed walkthrough and sharing the final results, you'll be able to decide for yourself whether this might be the printer for you. The Reflex RS Turbo is a mid-sized resin printer and has the same overall design as the Reflex RS. The one difference being the enhanced amber screen, which can be bought separately for owners of the original Reflex RS, and amongst other things has an improved contrast ratio, providing more detailed prints. Before we start, it's worth pointing out that resin is a very toxic substance, so I'll be using a good mask when doing the cleaning and curing. Something like this Draeger mask that has A2P3 filters will do nicely. I'd also recommend wearing some kind of eye protection if you don't already wear glasses as I do. Gloves are also essential when handling the resin, and nitrile gloves like these will do a great job of protecting our skin. I'll also be working in a well-ventilated environment and using a good quality air purifier, with both an activated carbon filter as well as a HEPA filter, as an additional precaution. With that out of the way, let's begin. Along with the RS Turbo printer itself, Hey Gears also provided a washing unit for cleaning the models when they come out of the printer, along with the curing unit, all of which does end up taking a fair bit of space. Once I had everything unpacked, physically setting things up was nice and simple. Alongside the physical instruction manuals, there are a series of short videos on the Hey Gears website that provide nice clear guidance, which I found extremely helpful. Hey Gears also sent me this optional heated resin tank, which is designed to maintain an ideal resin temperature, handy for those printing in a cold environment like a garage. This was the only slightly fiddly part to install, but even this turned out to be pretty simple once I followed the provided setup video. If you're not installing the heated resin tank, all you need to do is unpack the unit, switch it on, and follow the on-screen instructions. After selecting language and time zone, we're prompted to connect to the internet. It will then provide a verification code to input in the Blueprint app, either on a mobile device or desktop computer. I'm using the PC for this, where we select Devices, Bind New Device, then input the verification code, allowing the software to talk to the printer. The printer then walks us through the simple task of removing the protective films, before locking in the resin tank, and the build platform, which simply clamps into place. The printer then performs a levelling test, and we're now prompted to install a resin cartridge, although you can of course pour the resin directly into the tank if you prefer. Hey Gears produce a wide range of different resin types, and the printer and software settings will automatically calibrate to match the resin being used. This resin, for example, has flexible properties, making it far more durable and almost impossible to snap. This is their slightly cheaper standard modelling resin, and I'm using the PAP10, which appears to offer super high levels of detail along with age-resisting properties. All we have to do here is remove the cap and slot the cartridge into the printer, which will then intelligently monitor and control the levels of resin both in the tank and the bottle. and it's always worth checking to ensure we have the latest software updates installed. Next, I'm switching on the washing and curing units, which don't provide a binding code like the printer. Instead, I'm using the mobile app to add them to the system via Bluetooth. Here, once again, we can check for software updates to complete the setup process. With the setup complete, let's now head to the Blueprint Studio to prepare our first files for printing. This is Haygear's Blueprint Studio, which can be freely downloaded from their website. I'm going to create a new project, which I'm saving locally for now, but we will ultimately need to send to the cloud in order for the job to be transmittable to the washing and curing units. We're then asked to select which printer we're using, whether or not we're using the pulsing release module, which I'm not. There's currently only one option for application, so we select General Purpose, before selecting our chosen resin type. And finally, we have a choice of layer thickness, and I'm going with High Precision, which is 30 micrometers. We're now taken to a representation of the build plate, and we're invited to start adding our STL, or stereolithography, files, which can either be imported or dragged in from a Windows folder. Notice we have 4 headings at the top that will guide us through the process of preparing the STL files, adding supports, finalizing the layout, then slicing the files ready to be sent to the printer. I'm now going to import my first file, and I decided to start with a simple 2-part sculpt of Grand Moff Tarkin by Sid Naik, which I brought over on Cults 3D. Let's load in the torso first. Navigation is all very intuitive here. We can hold the right mouse button to rotate, left or middle button to drag, and mouse wheel to zoom in and out. The first thing I'd like to do is scale this down as it's currently too large. So, with the object selected, we can hit Scale, and I chose 40% before hitting Enter. We can see this gives the torso a height of 39mm, which seems about right to me. Let's now import the head and scale it down by the same amount. The next thing I'd like to do is rotate each piece, mainly to reduce the visibility of the support contact points, which we'll be adding in a moment. And it's also good practice to minimise having large flat areas that run parallel to the build plate. So after selecting the head, we can hit Rotate, then tilt the object as we like by grabbing the circular handles. And I'm now doing the same with the torso. I later discovered if you position the mouse so all the handles turn yellow, you can freely rotate the model in any axis you like. As there's still plenty of room on the build plate, I'm going to tuck Grand Moff Tarkin into the corner and add another model, this time Master Chief from Halo, which is going to be a gift for a close friend who's a big fan. This sculpt is one of several that were kindly sent to me by 3D Wicked Art, who I'll provide a link to in the video description. I also printed several more of their designs, including Kratos from God of War, Ash from Evil Dead 2, and a fantastic Green Goblin. Multiple STLs can of course be imported and rescaled at the same time. Once we've scaled and rotated the files to our liking, we now need to add supports. Some files do come pre-supported, but as I've been playing with the scale, I chose to use files that came without. Fortunately, the Blueprint software has an auto support feature, so all we need to do is select the object, hit auto support, and generate. You can see how, because of the tilt of the head, none of these support contact points are in danger of leaving marks on the face, although the back of the head will probably need some tidying up. This too can be performed on multiple files at once. Notice here at the bottom we're also able to see an estimate of the resin consumption, and it looks like I'm averaging around 100 grams per bust. Once all the supports have been added, we can either arrange things to our liking, or hit the Auto Layout button under the Layout tab. We then need to instruct the program to slice the file, which is where the software converts the 3D model into a set of instructions that the printer understands. To do that, we simply select Slice here at the top, and if we haven't yet backed the project up to the cloud, we can do so now. We then hit the blue Slice button. This might take a little while, but once that's finished slicing, the file will appear in the Slice Files tab, where we can then send it to the printer. If you get to this point and realise you've yet to sync the file to the cloud, we can do so here. And if you're lacking internet access for any reason, you can also send the file to the printer via a USB stick. Now the sliced file has been sent, let's head over to the printer. All we need to do to get things going is select Job List and print the desired job from any that we've sent to the printer. If you're using the heated resin tank, it might take a while for the printer to heat the resin to the perfect temperature before the magic begins. Once the printing has begun, we're free to go about our day, and we can even check the progress of the print in the mobile app. Bear in mind, it's the height of the print that determines the overall print time, and most of my prints ended up taking around 6 hours or so. The printer operates pretty quietly, with noise levels sitting at around 48 decibels. I'm now attaching the provided plastic drip tray to the side of the tank before removing the build plate and draining off the excess resin. It's worth mentioning that when opening the printer, I've ensured that my windows are covered, as I don't want any ultraviolet light to reach the unused resin in the tank, which might affect its properties. I'm now prizing the prints from the build plate directly into one of the wash containers, although you might want to provide a softer landing for more delicate prints. And we can return the build plate to the printer for now. Here I'm pouring in a good amount of isopropyl alcohol before sealing the box and placing it on the washing unit. We can then either manually select a washing time and speed, or let the washer decide for us based on the job at hand. To do that, we need to send the job to the unit, either from the Blueprint Studio as you can see here, or from the mobile app, where we first access the Slice library, select the job to send, followed by the destination, in this case the washer. We can then see the job appear on the screen, which we then select and activate. The washer then determines the required washing time based on the volume of the job it's been given, which in this case is 2 minutes. Haygear suggests washing each part separately, presumably to avoid parts getting damaged as they get thrown about, but I've not had any breakages yet. Once that's done, we remove the box and stack it on top of the second empty box. We then turn the valve on the side and hit the air in switch on top, allowing the IPA to drain down into the box below, ready to be used again for the next wash. Once the IPA has drained out, we close the valve and air in switch and remove the box containing the freshly washed models. Before moving on, I'm now just cleaning the build plate, firstly by scraping the excess resin back into the tank with the provided spatula. I'm then cleaning it with a microfiber cloth and some IPA. I also used a brush to get into the central gap here. Once dry, we can replace the build plate and close the printer, leaving the resin in the tank for the next time we print. Over at the desk, I'm now going to remove the supports, which is a little easier to do before curing as the resin is yet to fully harden. This can be done with a combination of clipping and, if patience runs low, simply pulling them off. I recommend working with care for the more delicate or exposed parts of the models, as breakages can occur if you're working with a particularly thin part. We can then place all of the parts onto the turntable in the curing station, and just as we did with the washer, we can send the job from the slice library in the app to the unit. This then decides how long the resin needs to fully cure, in this case 30 minutes. And here are the finished cured resin pieces. We can then do some final cleaning up of the parts before assembling the models using superglue. Here on some of the undersides we can see some slightly bumpy textures caused by the support contacts, which we can smooth over with some fine sandpaper. And you may find one or two sneaky supports still hiding in some of the recesses. I think at this point it's clear to see just how beautifully the models have turned out. There's a staggering level of detail here, with super fine textures and tiny crisp lettering all rendered incredibly well. I've also begun printing out some basing materials from Epic Basing. I'm now priming the models in black with the airbrush, followed with some grey and white applied from an overhead angle to really help bring out the volumes and textures. Now that we've had a close look at the entire process, here are my thoughts on the system as a whole. I think it's fair to say that this printer has exceeded my expectations and feels like it was designed precisely to meet my needs. That is to say, I went in with little knowledge and zero experience. I just wanted to be able to produce beautiful pieces with as little effort as possible, and to be able to produce pieces like this on my very first print I think says a lot. Setting things up couldn't have been much simpler, and it really does feel like Hey Gears have gone out of their way to make things as beginner-friendly as possible here. It took me a minute to realise the way you initially add the washing and curing units is via the mobile app rather than the desktop, although it is clearly stated in the instructions. Likewise, I found the Blueprint software incredibly intuitive and easy to use. Granted, I am pretty comfortable working in a range of software environments, so I may have a slight advantage here, but I don't think the layout could be much clearer. The tabs at the top do a great job of guiding us through the main steps, and I had no problems at all preparing the files from the very first print. There is of course a lot more you can do in the Blueprint Studio, and I'd certainly like to hone my skills here. But even using the most basic and automated functions, I was able to get printing amazing models straight away. My only suggestion for the Hey Gears team might be to add the letter D to the end of the word slice here, as this is where our sliced files appear, rather than this being a tab to actually slice the files. The printing process itself was likewise pain-free, and I like being able to track the print time on the mobile app. It's also nice to see that the app has a built-in support system where you can submit and track a support ticket, and even attach up to 5 pictures or videos to help the support team see what kind of problem you might be having. I would consider the washing unit to be a somewhat optional but luxury addition, as you can of course wash the models by hand in a container if you wish. That being said, the washer is incredibly convenient. The system of having two identical containers allowing the IPA to drain from one into the other to be reused for the next job works incredibly well. And as the boxes seal nice and tight, there's no odour leakage at all once the lids are on. The curing unit is less optional of course and does exactly what you'd expect. Just remember, the job you're working on does need to be sent individually to all three components of the system, either from the computer or mobile app. I don't know if a one-click or send all option might be possible in the future, although if that would necessitate having the washing and curing units switched on needlessly during the entire printing process, I can understand why this isn't currently the case. There are of course a range of additional automated features that I've barely touched on in this video, such as automatic residue detection and floating screen auto-leveling, all designed to help provide a smooth and trouble-free user experience. If there's one divisive element of the HeyGear system that might put off a certain kind of user, it's the proprietary resins that do somewhat lock you into a closed ecosystem. I believe it certainly is possible to use other, perhaps cheaper brands of resin, but doing so would avoid the warranty, and you would also have to be sure you know what you're doing in terms of calibration. For me personally, I prize the quality, convenience and reliability provided by the HeyGear's resins, not to mention the automatic resin refill feature, and have little interest in spending time researching potentially cheaper alternatives that might also carry the increased risk of print failures. The PAP10 resin I've been using so far costs around £50 per kilogram, which translates to around £5 per bust, which is about the cost of a sandwich, and I'm okay with that. Finally, when purchasing any 3D printer, it's important to match the printer type and size to that of the jobs you want to perform. If you're looking to print large items of terrain for gaming for example, a larger filament printer would probably be a more sensible and cost-effective choice. For the kind of jobs I need this for, however, printing super fine miniatures, basing elements and busts, I honestly couldn't be happier. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Ultracraft Reflex RS Turbo. If you're interested in seeing what some of these models look like once painted up, you can find links to my socials in the video description where I like to share my work. My special thanks go to HeyGears for sending me the printer and trusting me with this review, as well as to 3D Wicked Art for the amazing STLs. And finally to my incredible patrons for the kind support that enables me to put so much into these videos. Join me again soon, and happy printing!